The Growth Girl is a podcast with no direction but up. This past weekend, I went to Buffalo Wild Wings with my best friend for the first time in over 9 months, and I couldn't help but notice how much my life has changed since the last time I was there. This was our spot in college. The spot we went after breakups, before big tests, and the spot we went after multiple meltdowns of confusion, helplessness, and despair. For some reason, familiarity and the satisfaction we got from indulging in good food made us feel a little bit better, in addition to each other's support, of course. But this weekend, as I looked around the place, it no longer felt familiar to me. I couldn't fathom that the person I was then is the same person that I am now. Mostly because over the past 9 months, I've said goodbye to confusion, helplessness, and despair. And for the most part, I've kept my meltdowns to a minimum. Why? Because time and time again, I've decided to proactively choose positivity. Now, I'm not here to advocate for binge eating, but each time my friend and I went to Buffalo Wild Wings while at school, that was a choice that I made to lift my spirits when they felt low. This is an example of one way, albeit a small way, of things that you could do to ensure your spirit will rise. It won't get better overnight, but we must make small choices like this one each day. Just as when you feel a cold coming on, you'll take an Advil or make sure that you get some rest, we must care for our emotions with the same tenderness as we do our health. We must aid ourselves with small pleasures that will lift our spirits. Positivity is a choice, and it's one that we must make every day. We can't wait for the world to just spit it back out at us, especially now. I'm about to go into 5 different things that we can do while embarking along the courageous path of choosing positivity in our daily lives. First, you must have the will to believe that good exists. This is a tough one. Seeing isn't believing, believing is seeing. And before you see the good in the world, you must have the will and the desire to see it. You have got to want it. A strong will is essential to choosing positivity because without it, it is so easy to fall into negativity. With the sensationalism that's running rampant in the media, we often talk about the bad before the good. But maybe, just maybe, that's because good things happen every day, do they not? Good things happen so often that it's become boring to report on. But we must believe that it exists and that good is out there before we can see it with our own eyes. This brings me to step number 2. Prepare to shift your perception. You may have heard the cliche, look on the bright side. And that's all good and fine, but what does that actually entail? Many people are afraid to look on the bright side because they don't want to invalidate the fact that the dark side exists. And I want to be 100% clear that that is not what I'm asking you to do. Darkness exists, but we cannot have light without the dark. And when we shift our perception, we'll see that that darkness adds color. In order to choose positivity, we must be prepared to let go of the negative perceptions that we cling to out of fear. We've all got them. You know, that I'm not good enough, that I can't do this, that no one likes me. Those bad boys got to go. And by shifting our perception, we can transform our feelings without denying them. My third point. All feelings are valid, and if you don't believe me, then please hit me up. I'll shower you with compliments, and I will be your number 1 cheerleader. A lot of people are hesitant to choose positivity because they think that in doing so, then they'll deny their emotions, which are very real, valid, and painful. I'm asking you to never deny your emotions, but instead to transform them. The ultimate form of emotional validation is to not let your emotions hold you back any longer. You recognize them, and then you choose to move through them. You end up better on the other side, and you become more powerful than your trauma. My 4th point is to stay dedicated to yourself, first and foremost. I know that relying on others makes us feel good, and I'm not saying to stop that. It's great to have people in your lives that will help you. But people are also difficult to rely on at times, and there's no other person that you can trust to be on your side 100% as much as you. I've been stabbed in the back multiple times in my life. In elementary school and middle school, it seemed as though I had a new best friend every year because people I counted on would just move on to someone more popular. And I specifically remember a time on the playground when my best friend told me that I was weird and that I couldn't hang out anymore. Your biggest advocate needs to be yourself. Because when people screw you over, you could just choose to tell yourself that there's something wrong with you, that you're doomed to repeat this pattern your entire life. And of course I did tell myself that for a while. But negative talk is self-sabotage. We all want to engage in fulfilling friendships and relationships, but with negative self-talk, that is impossible. Because with negative self-talk, we will convince ourselves that people hate us, whether or not they actually do. So we must first choose to be on our own side. My last point, act, don't react. Make active choices. Make sure that you ground yourself in yourself and don't make choices because of anybody else. Again, a really difficult thing to do. And as you may have noticed, choosing positivity is not very easy. But I hope that you've realized by now how much control we have over these things and that it is in our hands, not in anybody else's. Making active choices is the opposite of making reactive choices that do more harm than good. And if you want an example of reactive, take a look at our president, tweeting at 3 a.m. reacting to comedy shows. There's something about activity and reactivity that you can just sort of feel the energy coming off of people and you can know where they stand. Happy people will choose positivity and then have a spring in their step that actively pulls them towards greatness, without giving the opinions of others a reaction. I hope that you've enjoyed these tips about how to choose positivity. This is something that I believe that we're all going to have to start being more proactive about. Whether this means going to therapy, making difficult life changes, cutting toxic people out of our life, changing your habits, or having the courage to reach out to an old friend and ask for help. Remember, you're not alone. The world is rooting for you.